In the 90s, it seemed like such an easy choice when I look back. I thought I knew what kind of writer I was. I wrote novels. But lately, I've noticed something. When I sit down to write, my attention drifts to screenplays. And it got me wondering, what happens when the writer changes? Hello, fiction babes and storytellers. Welcome to another episode of Habits of a Writer, the podcast where we talk about the good habits that lead to a finished manuscript. I'm your host, Portia Levette, novelist, indie author of 2 published books, and currently finishing the 3rd one. Let me start with a thank you for last week's episode. You allowed me to rant about what I was facing on a personal level. But this week, I'm ready to get back to the manuscript. Lately, I've noticed a lot of people talking about returning to things they loved as kids. For me, it's skating. I haven't put on a pair of skates in years, but the thought keeps showing up. And what's interesting is that the same thing is happening in my writing. Not skating specifically, but another creative interest I tucked away years ago: screenwriting. I guess you can say I'm at a pivotal moment in my life. Just as any typical Saturday, I sat down at my desk and loaded my writing software. I'm 2 chapters into my 4th novel. I decided on a 25,000 word count goal for the months of June and July. However, I'm finding myself working on episode 2 of a 6-part crime drama I developed. Not only am I writing in a different genre, but also a different medium. In the writing industry, it's considered taboo. I don't really understand why, since so many people are multi-passionate creatives in this day and time. I feel like it shouldn't even be an issue. I'm leaning on my experience in creating great characters with strong character arcs, but I'm having to learn the format of screenplays. I plotted, I planned, and prepared, but I find the flow is not the same. And you know what? I'm good with that because I'm learning something new. I know too many people that get discouraged when taking a risk trying something different. You've already proven yourself as a writer, so lean on what you know. I've gone from being the girl writing poems and short stories to writing several full novels, a blog, a podcast, and now one episode of a screenplay. Each represents a different period of my life. From a newbie saying no one would want to read what I write, to being a self published author telling her story in fiction and nonfiction on several different platforms. When you change, so does the story. I feel like I modeled myself after the women I admired and studied. Now I'm in search of my own voice. Again, maybe that's the part we don't talk about enough as writers. We spend years trying to become a writer. We study craft books, we imitate the authors we love, we learn structure, dialogue, and character development. But eventually, there comes a point where the question changes. It's no longer, how do I become a writer? It's, who am I as a writer now? And the answer might be different than it was 5 years ago, or 10, or even 20. That's not failure. That's growth. Maybe you've been writing fantasy and suddenly you find yourself drawn to memoir. Maybe you've always been a pantser and now you crave an outline. Maybe you've stepped away from writing entirely and you're wondering if you still belong here. You do. The medium may change, the process may change, the goals may change, but the storyteller is still there. This week's habit: sit down with your journal and ask, what part of writing is exciting me right now? What part feels heavy? If no one was judging me, what would I be writing? Pay attention to the answer. Not because you need to abandon what you're working on, but because your curiosity may be trying to tell you something. Sometimes the next chapter of your writing life begins with paying attention to what keeps pulling at you. You don't have to become a different writer overnight. You don't have to throw away everything you've learned, but you are allowed to evolve. After all, if our characters are allowed to grow and change, maybe we are too. Hey, if you're new here and looking for tips on writing, building a sustainable writing life, and want to talk all things story, then I'm so glad we found each other. I'll be here every Tuesday with a new episode, so be sure to follow or subscribe so you don't miss out. And if this episode encouraged you to keep growing as a writer, then be sure to hit the like button and share it with another writer friend that could use the encouragement also. Until next time, happy writing, my friends. Again, my name is Portia Lee Vett, and this is Habits of a Writer.